All right.
Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. This is going to be a wild, interesting, different take on our normal content. We did a betting on Bitcoin and NFTs focused podcast for the Evergreen series on Monday. We threw out options for folks. Hey, you know what? I was unavailable Wednesday to do our normally scheduled stuff. So we figured, hey, we still want to give the people the two free podcasts that they subscribe for.
Yeah, you're paying for 2 free podcasts. You should get 2 free podcasts.
You should get 2 free.
Obviously, I mean, if you listen to the Monday episode, it's painfully apparent Drew has been diving headfirst into this a lot harder than I have. He knows a lot more. So I'm going to play the part of moderator today, which is not just throwing the questions up and getting them. You know, we're going to release this as a podcast as well. So we'll read the questions out loud for the people who can't see it on the screen, but also trying to keep Drew's answers to some level of, under 10 minutes. You know how he gets.
So, yeah, for sure.
I can't tell you where I get my edibles and that. If you are watching on YouTube, please give it a thumbs up. People have been good about thumbs up.
Establishment
getting some thumbs up here. So, I mean, should we just dive the F in?
Hell yes.
First one from Money Mike.
This is the most popular question by far.
Money Mike is a guy who definitely has been on here before. From the YouTube channel, BlockFi. What do you guys think, Drew?
So BlockFi is an interesting project, and it is a pretty clear long-term winner in this space because anything that kind of marries legacy markets and ideas with crypto tends to be worth a lot of money. Coinbase figured that out first. They're worth $100 billion. BlockFi has figured out, hey, we can match some people who want Bitcoin exposure and loans and financial stuff. We can be that intermediary, right?
Explain about BlockFi quick for people who don't know what it is.
They are providing liquidity for loans in the cryptocurrency space on both sides of the market. Okay. I guess here's a good example.
I saw you take 2 steps back in your head there.
Yeah, no. So like, what does that mean? Okay. There is a hedge fund out there that notices that March or February futures contracts for Bitcoin are trading at 50K, but you can buy it spot for 47, and there's a $3,000 gap between the two. And they say, we're gonna just go take that $3,000 put it in our pocket because we're gonna go sell those futures contracts, and then we're gonna go buy spot. But they want to do it at scale. They need a partner who can help facilitate some of this, right? Like, so market makers on exchanges who are, trying to capture premiums in various ways. They need help. They need legacy, some legacy solutions for that. You can't do it entirely in a decentralized way. BlockFi kind of supports a lot of that, market making efforts. And they do so in large part because they try to collect your Bitcoin and give you a return on investment that is much more than you're going to get if you have just US dollars sitting in a savings account. Like, what are you going to get? 0.5% on that or something like that?
No,
annualized?
That's like 10 times high. Maybe
whatever.
0.5% now.
Whatever.
It's very limited. So.
You get nothing for leaving your money in a savings account. If you have Bitcoin and they're sitting in cold storage somewhere, and you're like, God damn, I wish I was, I wish I was getting paid to save this, to hold. Basically, well, BlockFi basically is trying to do that. They are trying to get you to hand over custody of their coins, and then they're going to give you 8% or something, or 10%, some kind of annualized return that's massive for the fact that you're handing over those coins. Now, the downside is you no longer have custody, which means you're trusting them to, you're trusting the You're trusting them to balance their books well, balance their risk well, not go illiquid, not give out bad loans, because they're going to take your Bitcoin that you're giving them and they're going to wrap it up in a financial product and they're going to loan it to someone else. right? And they're
When you hear
making
someone
these
say
loans.
wrapped Bitcoin.
Well, whatever the case is, they're taking the Bitcoin that you're that you're giving them custody of it, and they're using it as a financial instrument and giving it loans to someone else, and they're making a premium on that, and they're giving you a big slice of that premium in terms of the 8 or 10%, whatever, return on investment you have. Now you have to lock up that Bitcoin for a certain period of time, 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, whatever. I don't know exactly what the details are, but in that time, you don't have custody of that coin, which means you can't do anything else with it. Right? Like, let's say you were like, I'm sensing the market is getting a little dicey. There's some macro stuff swirling that's not looking great. I want to, I want to short the Bitcoin and lock up, the US dollars that I have, accrued equivalent while the market fluctuates and sorts out some of the nastiness. You can't do it because you've already turned over those Bitcoin to someone else. And so you're kind of stuck. But at the same time, if you were just going to hodl anyway and leave 5 Bitcoin in a cold storage, on some ledger or Trezor or something, you would do better to get paid for that, I suppose. But the flexibility is limited. Yeah, the BlockFi accounts. That was a good
someone
point
just mentioned in the chat, not available in every state. A lot of this stuff isn't. Anyone who's dug into using FTX or Binance even have found that the US versions of that stuff isn't as good as some of the original versions. I mean, even being in the US is a little dicey with some of the just trading platforms you can use. The question here from Bill Rad: Celsius versus BlockFi. I don't
know
Celsius.
much about Celsius.
So
but
I mean, is it another DeFi?
So that's this shit. DeFi is decentralized finance, which means there is no middleman. There is no custody issues. But there's still some risk and stuff like that. BlockFi legitimately is not decentralized, right? Like they are an entity, and you're counting on them.
They are.
You're counting on them balancing risk and doing all the risk calculations and not fucking up. I do want to mention though, Dan Kaplan brought it up. BlockFi accounts not available in all states. That's another enormous problem for a lot of things. Like there are difficulties on ramping in lots of places right now. Lots of states are behind. Lots of states are actively trying to make it hard. To participate in that stuff. And I don't know that lasts forever. At some point, the guardrails will start.
It's just like anything else. Like widespread adoption is right around the corner. We're not terribly worried about too many people dragging their feet for like a decade here. From Redaholics, old school Twitter follow. I know this guy. Last pod, Drew talked about on-ramps. On-ramps are in quotes. What on-ramps do you recommend for someone looking to FOMO buy? And then he says JK on the FOMO buy. And then he says kind of.
Yeah. It's been a really long time since I was actively trying to convert USD to crypto with an exchange. So I'm not a especially excellent person to answer these questions. All of my experience accumulating Bitcoin in the first place, exchanging fiat for Bitcoin, was done at Coinbase. It was a fine experience. I didn't have any noteworthy issues, although they're not the most excellent player in the space. There's lots of, there are lots of questionable things that go on. And I don't know that they're necessarily perfect or good or long-term, net positives for Bitcoin, but they at least have enough institutional clout at this point that if someone walks in and says, hey, I want to buy $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, they can facilitate that. So they're a major player. Their fees are structured in a way that doesn't help little guys, which means shop around. The other on-ramps that I've used, Kraken is a very fair one. Although getting, kind of the process of getting started there is especially tough. And it's especially tough when there's like a frenzy. Right, like when everyone wants in, when there's a frenzy, it becomes extremely slow to get a new account up, and that can be
something. Yes, that was something we found out with a Canadian friend of ours.
Yeah,
where he's really struggled. He had to go do it at his post office, and we were really weirded out by that. But then all the other Canadians were like, "No, that's like a thing. You go down.
That's the thing.
Yeah, it's a thing in Canada. You can put money into things like this at the post office. The post office is just a deal there. So, yeah, I mean, do shop around, and obviously it depends on your jurisdiction for on-ramping because some places don't allow certain things. But
Sure.
yeah, look at and fee structures. I mean, that's going to be an individualized question too. If you're going to buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, that's way different than taking several $100,000 or millions. Obviously, like we said, the fee structure is really against the little guy in some of these places now. I don't even know if this is a real question. What do you think of Goose Finance?
Moving off, but before moving off, just it's worth mentioning a couple other players. There's Gemini is an on-ramp that is worth exploring. It's obviously there. If you've ever seen The Social Network, the twin goons that were part of the on the crew team that that were the Winklevi,
not those twins.
The Winklevi from The Social Network. They obviously are behind Gemini, and you can have a personal opinion on them. That whatever that you want that to be, that's fine. But Gemini, at least it seems like a pretty pretty true blue good product that people have had good experience with. Similarly, Cash App I know is a very popular way. People are on ramping right now. Robinhout is a way people are on ramping right now.
Cash App fees are pretty rough. But again, you can't sit and goof around and trade on there because you'll just get eaten up. But like if you just want to buy a bunch and let it sit, it's a one-time fee, I guess. It's not going to be the end of the world. Is it Goose Finance? Drew, what do you think of Goose Finance?
So I don't know anything about Goose Finance other than it is part of the DeFi infrastructure on Binance Smart Chains. Right now, DeFi really got off the ground in earnest last summer, and there were a lot of players, and most everybody was using the Ethereum ecosystem. And the winners, or at least the leaders, the blue chip leaders in the DeFi space, were on the Ethereum ecosystem. And Ethereum in the last about month, because just lots of weird random stuff. A lot of people using Ethereum for a lot of things. NFT craze is obviously fueling some of this too. It has made gas very expensive. So making transactions in Ethereum has become extremely expensive. It's just in terms of the cost of doing business. Because of that, there has been a gold rush, like a land rush to try to be to take Ethereum market share in terms of making some of these smart contract products. Solana is the Alameda Capital answer to that problem, and that ecosystem operates in a similar way to Ethereum, but in a dedicated space. And then similarly, Binance Smart Chains, which is also obviously part of the Binance Exchange ecosystem, is similarly doing the same. And as far as I know, Goose works on Binance Smart Chains, and I don't know how well it works. But go ahead, Andy.
I'm going to throw a question in. Can you speak, just because this is something like not behind closed doors, but in some of the chats where we talk about this, like the Alameda thing comes up a lot. Can you explain who they are and why they are a player, and what sort of player they are in the market right now?
Yeah. Alameda Research Group is a group of lifers in the crypto development space, some of the smarter programmers, some of the most outstanding talent in the crypto space, all kind of up in the San Francisco Bay Area. The guy that kind of gets the shine the most, because he's the most active on social media, is Sam Brinkman-Fines. Sam SBF Alameda is his Twitter handle. He's a bit of an oracle. He's a bit of a, he's got his, he's come into a number of projects that were floundering or failing. Sushi Swap is a good example, and kind of taken some ownership, taken some, not ownership necessarily, but, just taking some initiative to try to better organize products, help save them, turn things that were scams into actually useful tools and reasonable, platforms and products going forward. And I would just say that, Alameda Research Group and Sam in particular, because they're so well respected, trusted, and, just good, actionable dudes, they get a lot of support from the market. Like if they throw their hat in a ring with the project, the likelihood it's going to go up in value is high in general. And so it's a decent kind of, You follow what they're interested in and what they're working on and what they're developing, and it's a pretty good bet that it's going to grow in value. That's been the legacy, at least. And Alameda itself is pretty interesting because it provides a lot of data and useful information in terms of, what's going on smart chains, because that's stuff is tough to crack into what's going on all the time on some of these blockchains.
And somebody just asked any altcoins you're into, and the answer of like altcoins are just a means to get more Bitcoin. But at the same time, like you mentioned, the Solana, the sushi network, whatnot, whatever, like if you're going to be in altcoins for any amount of time, at least have them be something, and they all pump. They're all pumping like over the last month, but at least look for something that's behind, or somebody or a group of people who are actually trying to put value to it behind it. Like the Dogecoin pump was just silly Twitter stuff. I mean, there's no utility. There's no
it was literally
backing. Yeah, I mean, it's literally a meme. So some of these, like Sushi and Solana, those are, they have some smarts behind it, or have, the maybe not the utility yet, but the dream of having some utility at some point, or hope of it. I mean, I guess you could speak to that too.
I guess in general, when I'm evaluating an altcoin, I think the long-term winners are the ones that offer true decentralization. Anything that's kind of built around, and this even goes for just the Alameda research. The Sam coins. Like if it's too tied to a cult of personality, or like there's somebody in the middle who's really pulling all the strings and doing all of the kind of architecture, that's tricky. The more decentralized it is, the better it's going to withstand sort of the highs and lows of this space in general. I mean, the reason Bitcoin is so good is because it was just a perfect decentralized system and experiment off the top. And Ethereum is suffering from some of the issues of not being completely divorced from Vitalik, who's sort of the mind engine that's the center of the Ethereum ecosystem. And so I guess in evaluating shitcoins, I avoid governance tokens. Like that is a real hard you learn that lesson the hard way once, where you get stuck holding a bag of governance tokens, and you're like, I'm not even using this. Why do I care if I have a say or a stake in what the rules are? Like
you're on the board.
Useless. Great. I'm on the board of something that I don't understand and I will never use. Like cool.
Getting invited to a shareholders meeting for a shitcoin. That's not what you're after. That's not utility.
No. And so there's a lot of classes of shitcoins. And again, anytime you would get involved in any of these, you can tell pretty quickly just by trying to use it yourself for a relatively modest stake. You can try using it yourself and figure out, what do I got here? Is this useful? Right? Like I could guarantee Dogecoin was that you brought up was a great example. Like that's a meme coin. You can't use it for anything. Like if you go try to actually use it, you're gonna find out real quick. Like, oh, doesn't.
Skylar says you can get tickets to the Mavs.
Okay. Well, go do it and use it. Yeah, I mean, go do it and you'll see how easy that is. I would still say and kind of keep in force first and foremost, anything besides Bitcoin you're investing in this space has equal likelihood of being a scam or the next big thing. And keep that in mind. The risk reward is massive. It's massive. Tails. And yes, and in investing in any of this, really, my goal has always sort of been, I'm trying to accumulate more Bitcoin by doing this. Like you only really want to get involved if the rate of growth and adoption and usage is expected to outpace Bitcoin over that same period of time you're expecting to hold these shitcoins. So, and honestly, there's products like index coins, index tokens on FTX, for instance. You can get index tokens in just DeFi perpetual index token, or a exchange perpetual index token, which gives you exposure to all of these so that you don't have to actually pick the winners. You don't have to know, oh, well, my friend said this is good because it's 5x on him. Well, great. Like that doesn't do you any good once it's already 5x.
Machine, that's super good.
Yeah, that's great. But but if you have like if you buy DeFi perp or exchange perp on FTX, then you cover all of that. There's mid cap altcoin perp. There's a shitcoin perp there. There's a Samcoin perp. Like you can literally cover a huge swath with one buy, and then you're not left holding the bag when if there's a top event, because a lot of times if there's sort of a hot new thing that you hear about and you go buy a bunch of it, the chances that when you want to get out, that you can actually get out for what the price is and not be the not have liquidity issues on your intention of leaving is a real problem. So that's one of the reasons I like the index ideas better in general. And
indexes in general have always felt better for me, especially in classic investing, like index funds, low cost index funds. It's the joke, and it's almost a meme on like Twitter. Stocks only go up. Well, I mean, indexes only go up over a long period of time. And if the index goes to to a point, a low, that you're actually worried about the money that you had in there and it really hurt, like the world is fucked. and that money is the least, like finding some way to procure food for your family in the long nuclear winter is your main concern at that point. So like in indexes, I've always been a fan of. Real quick, what do you think of Cardano?
A little spooked by it. Kind of suffers from sort of the centralization problem. They've been around for a really long time. I remember people talking about Cardano in like 2017, 2018 as like this future that was going to solve a bunch of problems. It was going to be the smart contract solution that that outpaced and took over Ethereum. That was kind of the promise, but they didn't have a product. It was all vaporware to the degree at that point in time, and they still don't really have a product yet. Now, if they do eventually roll something out and it turns out to be amazing, and it takes 5-10% even of the Ethereum ecosystem's overall market cap, then it's going to blow up in price relative to what it is now. But it has a centralization problem. It has a cult of personality. But it also has some positives, like some very fucking hardcore, dedicated, super serious zealots. It's got a zealotry factor, and honestly, like what's going to be something
personality was a good term to use there,
right? But just the supporters, the believers, they're zealots. Like those are the people that are going to go down with the ship if it all goes to hell. And so that means there's liquidity. That means if you buy some and you want to get the hell out, you can get the hell out, probably. But I don't have any exposure to Cardano, unless they're in the DeFi perp, but I don't think they are.
I'm not 100% sure. And this is a good question from Money Mike again. And this is one we tackled in a different side chat, the math chat, about a month ago with our friend Suma. And you had some really good answers to this, so I was excited to see this. I was actually going to ask this if no one else did. What is the best cold storage wallet? And let's take a time out and say, what is a cold storage wallet and how does it work?
Okay, so check this out. This is a Trezor 1. Okay, I think I bought this in 2017, and I was like, okay, I'm a long-term holder. I believe I'm not ever intending to sell this Bitcoin. I want to. What's that? That's not a. What's that?
No, that's just my headphone case. I was just feeling.
Okay. No, this is what it looks like, and it's as simple as you plug the USB into your computer. You get a little pop-up screen here, and without this dongle plugged in, you cannot access the wallet.
What a word.
Okay, which means that it's basically like it is attack resistant to a hacker who can just get on your computer. Okay, they need the dongle must be plugged in. Okay, and then when you open up the wallet, the screen comes up and you have a series of numbers on the face here, and then you input your PIN on the computer, looking at what the arrangement of the numbers is on the screen. And so it's got a nice little layer of security there. And what was funny is I bought this again in 2017, put some long-term storage on here, and then put it in the drawer. And actually, of course, you plug it in. You must insert the dongle access. You plug it in, and it creates a new wallet for you. You get your 24 words, you write them down on paper, right? As opposed to putting them in a text file or saving them on your computer or anything like that, right? And you write your 24 words, and now your wallet is established, and this is just the way to access that, right?
Yeah, well, you got to those your cute man, woman, person, camera, TV.
Yeah,
and then
all of it.
19 more.
Yeah, all of those 24 words. So this was actually an interesting experience, because then it gets to 2020 and Bitcoin is ripping a hole in the sky again, and it's like, oh, cool. Like, I better go make sure that this thing still works. Well, Trezor kind of screwed me a little bit, because they had a couple of massive firmware updates in between 2017 when I set it up and 2020 when I tried to use it, and this fucker was bricked. Like, there was literally no saving this thing. I could not get it to be recognized when I plugged it in to save my life, and I freaked the fuck out. I was so upset. Could not get on this thing. Couldn't get it to recognize. Tried it on like 50 different computers, because I was like, maybe I need a computer with like Windows XP, and I was like, this is a disaster. and I'm like, there's no way to get onto this. Okay, and so it got to the point where I was like, okay, I just need to reestablish this, a fresh wallet here, because I'm never going to get this to work. So I ended up buying a second one and plugged it in. And the first option was, do you want to set up a new wallet, or do you want to set this wallet up as, with an existing set of phrases? And I was like, set it up with the existing set of phrases. And so it's crazy. Like, the screen pops up and it's like, type in the 10th word, and then you type in the 10th word, and it's like, type in the 18th word, you type in the 18th word, right? And you go through that, and the only way that what number order to type it in is if you're looking at the screen on the Trezor. And got through it all. It took I don't know, maybe 5 minutes, and then it uploaded it, and I was like, okay, here you go. And the existing wallet that I had from 2017 with the Bitcoin on it from that I had long-term stored was now established on the new hardware wallet. And it was a spooky experience, because I was like, this thing, was supposed to be the most secure, safe way to do this, and now it's bricked. But it ended up being a very good experience of just, how do you restore a wallet from scratch, with the phrase words that you have, and seeing how all that works and how hard it was and how resilient it was like, okay, this is good. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of a follow-up on that. Would you recommend just based on your experience, then, would you recommend probably plugging in your cold storage wallet every 3 months and making sure, or I guess I was going to ask what time frame? Yeah, like, the answer is yes, but what kind of time frame would you think? Every 3-4 months, plug it in, make sure it's doing the updates. End
of the quarter, just kind of plug it in, make sure it's still working appropriately. Yeah, I think that's fair. But again, because having gone through it once and realizing that all you really need is those 24 words, like, that's all you need. Like, it can be rescued. If the wallet itself becomes unuseful, right? If somebody stomps
a food snob frog, friend of the pod, golf aficionado, asked, do they do the 19-word sentence in French? No, because that would be a colossal waste of letters. Here's a good one. Like, Ryan asks, how much do they cost? Like, what's the price range on? Yeah, like, 50, I was going to say 50 to 100.
Yeah. Now, and again, kind of talking about cold storage wallet and why it has an advantage relative to another wallet. Any other wallet that is not cold storage can be accessed by a hacker, basically. If someone, if somebody gets on an unlocked phone, like if you track down my phone and it happens to be unlocked for whatever reason, you can go into my wallet, and without really any security, you can make a Bitcoin transaction, right? Which means you can send those Bitcoins to some other wallet of your choosing, and then that is an undoable transaction. You can't.
Would you say immutable?
You don't get a gimme on that. Immutable. That's right. It's an immutable transaction.
Very immutable.
It's very immutable, and that's why Bitcoin is so valuable, because it's hard money, right? It's the hardest form of money we've ever created as human beings. If if you want to security, you want to take your security a step further, then using a cold storage wallet is the logical next step. I don't love. I mean, I'm obviously kind of annoyed at Trezor because they bricked this thing in a time frame that I think a lot of people probably would find similar. In fact, if you bought one in 2017, 2018, and went through the same problem and or figured it out or fixed it, like tell me how, because I have, I would love to, get my old one restored as well. But yeah.
No, and that does kind of suck. We haven't had much for NFT questions. I sat and thought about NFTs for a long time. And I mean, this is going to be my question to you, because like legitimately, especially with the technology we have, I can make a perfect copy, size, quality, everything of the Mona Lisa for probably under $1,000 with a nice frame. Doesn't make it valuable. Like, it's very beautiful painting, whatever. Like the scarcity that, that it's the exact same. I think it's the exact same argument. It just like, it's so new because of the digitized versions of this. Like it's the same thing, right? Like, you can say, well, I can just have that GIF. I could screenshot that. But it's the same as like saying, well, I can I can put 30 letters together and numbers and say that's my Bitcoin wallet. Well, it's not. Like you can't go prove that. And that's how NFTs work. It's just like owner, when you buy a house, you get the deed to the house. It's put in the public record. This is a lot more secure than something like that. When an NFT is created, there's a proof of ownership. Whereas it's in the ledger, there's an address that say this person owns this. This is, this unique address, this unique NFT. And it's the same thing as selling art, physical art. Whereas if you sell this to somebody, it's entered in the ledger. You can prove you own this, and the scarcity will remain. It doesn't matter if a bunch of people say, well, I can just take a picture of it, or I can like you can take pictures of sculptures. You can take pictures of any art. It doesn't mean you own it. It doesn't mean anything. It's still the scarcity problem. So, I mean, I think it's just going to take time for people to wrap their heads around, and maybe unless you are really, really into something and you have a really good idea where a market's heading, I wouldn't get crazy with some of these NFT things, because some of the prices I think are too high right now because of the peak we're hitting with it. But I still do believe it's going to be the future. You're going to have art in this media, in this form. But don't go buying crazy dunks for like 30 grand.
Yeah. And like, I think we talked about it on the NFT pod. It's still my my gut level expectation, or my gut level feel on the NFTs, the prices that you're seeing. It's a lot of people with a lot of money that they don't have anything else to spend it on, right? In the same way that there are choked on-ramps, and the fact that you only have a couple of options as far as who you can buy Bitcoin from your bank right now, there are choked off-ramps. If you have a bunch of wealth that you've accumulated because you've been mining ETH for the last 4 years, and you have a giant stack of ETH, and you want to spend it on something, well, now you have something to spend it on.
Well, and right? It's funny. You could say the same thing about, like, think about a Picasso or a Fabergé egg or anything like that. Who buys that sort of stuff? People with too much money to spend on shit. That stuff is only worth what it's worth because there's a market for it. It's the same as anything else. So, I mean, it probably is going to be a much bigger thing in the future, and it's going to become a market because there's going to be people that will buy it, and it doesn't matter how much everyone poo-poos it. It's probably going to happen. Here's a pretty good question from Brandon Gerber. This is something we've mentioned, and it's something I feel like is starting to kind of not be a thing anymore. We did talk about this in previous episodes, probably in years past, where, let's say this was a couple years ago. It was like for sure you were using like Coinbase, because that was it almost for most people. And there were issues when you were taking your money from Coinbase and like depositing into a sports book or vice versa. And we all said, use an intermediate wallet. Send your money from an exchange to a wallet, and then the wallet to the sports book. And then in reverse order, if you are cashing out, go sports book to intermediate to exchange if you want to take money, or sportsbook to intermediate wallet back to a different sportsbook if you're just moving it. Do you think that's that big of an issue anymore?
I think you can get your Coinbase account bricked.
Yeah.
And I don't know how recently that has happened, but basically Coinbase, one of the reasons Coinbase is worth $100 million, $100 billion, is because they play by the rules very, very carefully. And they are very diligent about, good interfacing with the regulators, with the existing financial, monoliths. They are aggressive at KYC. They know exactly who you are, exactly what you're banking on, and they are very diligent about reporting large-scale financial transactions to the regulatory authorities. And anyone that is looking to crack down on certain types of use cases for Bitcoin, i.e., using it to move money from a sports book account to Coinbase to sell for USD. They're keeping track of it, and they have known addresses that are, hey, this is offshore book X, and somebody puts pressure on them and says, hey, we want you to shut down all the accounts that are doing business with these known wallet addresses. And then the next thing you know, you live in New York, you can't use Coinbase anymore, and now you have no off ramp to sell your Bitcoin you're winning offshore. And that has happened to people for sure. Has happened to people we know. And that's why I kind of always assume that, just send it to an intermediary, use an active wallet on your phone or on your computer that you're using as sort of the intermediate hub for all this stuff.
Yeah. From Dominic Bednarski. Oh, that's a nice, fun Polish name there. Interested to know your thoughts on if fees will decline going forward. I mean, quick answer, yes. But it cost me $9 to transfer $30 to Dapper yesterday. Seems like a large barrier of entry. And it's just a case of, it's monopoly is what it is. If you want to buy or try to get in line to buy a TopShot pack, you have to use Dapper. Like, there's no other option. That's you have to. So they could charge 100%, and they would still have a large, like, it could cost you literally $100 to deposit $100, and people would still get on there because they know they want to get their damn packs of moments and try to sell them for 3 times what they're worth. So, it sucks right now, but I do think eventually that will decline. It's not like most people can take their money out of there anyway. So yeah, just Dapper sucks right now. I know Dapper, it's also something you use on like OpenSea and other NFT sites use Dapper, and they've got the market by the balls, and they can charge some high fees right now. So it sucks.
Yeah. And in the end, they are in a unique position. They do have a monopoly. You're absolutely right. But it's centralized. And someone will eventually come up with an alternative that's decentralized, that doesn't have the same sort of fee structure, that is more fluid, that is more liquid, that doesn't take custody of your Bitcoin and convert it to USD when you're trying to put money on their platform, that doesn't, have a choke you on the way out because you need XYZ KYC, in order to even withdraw, right? All of that stuff and everything that you're pointing out about Dapper and the fees and all of that, to me, is a bad sign in terms of their longevity. Now, maybe they are far enough ahead in line that they will always be a thing, right? Like Coinbase will always be a thing because they were first, even if their fees are insane, even if it's an enormous pain in the ass.
They have a name. Everybody, even people who own no crypto whatsoever, have heard of Coinbase. Like, it's a known entity now.
Sure. And Dapper may end up being that way as well. But I for sure feel like the underlying fee issues, custody issues, KYC issues are all red flags. And that there will eventually be an NFT space that is frictionless, that glides, that doesn't have all of these hiccups and hangups and problems. And if Dapper doesn't figure it out, somebody else will, and then they'll be behind the 8 ball.
Can you read this one? Any thoughts on Socio's $CHZ in their expansion to the US. I don't know what the fuck this means, so that's why I said you should read it.
CHZ.
Half and half.
I'll look them up real quick on what this is.
I only drink this once a year because it's the Arnold Palmer Invitational.
In general, when somebody brings up a side chain project, shitcoin project, the best places to research what it's all about are CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko. And in general, I'm always
research sites.
super skeptical of these. Like, the younger it is, the more skeptical I am. Like, there's presumably there's a white paper that supports what they're trying to do. Presumably there's a kind of an elevator pitch as to what it's what the project is all about. According to CoinMarketCap, Chili's, powering Sokios.com, aims to give sports and esports fans the ability to crowd manage their favorite teams, games, leagues, and events. Okay. So that to me tells me that Chili's is probably a governance token. Okay. So whatever its price is really just it's really just a skin in the game to be able to participate in this. And that can be fun. That could be entertaining to you if if it's connected to an esports team or an activity that you're going to spend time doing anyway. That might be fun. I'm sure that esports is growing at a clip that this probably is, as an investment tool, probably makes sense. But I don't know that I would ever actually be using it for its intended purpose, so I'm probably never going to buy it.
Well, field this one. Well, I did promise my wife I'd cut this off in a few minutes because I got to go to a fish fry. But we will answer a couple more. And then there were some good questions from people who didn't realize that we were going to try to stick to crypto and NFT. I think we should do another one of these, or maybe more of these with just random whatever questions. Somebody on Northern Iowa tested positive, so they had to just pull out of the tournament. Drake will advance in the tournament. This is our first positive test during a tournament where a team actually was playing and had to pull out. So I know we had one earlier where they canceled a first round game before the tournament ever started. So Northern Iowa is done for the season, probably. Yeah, they're not getting it at large, so they're done. Last, yeah, the Joel Fuji one. When will a sportsbook give you both options to bet in Bitcoin or USD for a bet? Only got USD or nitrogen which is nitrogen, which is Bitcoin only. And not only that, like my add-on to that is, I'm curious if you have a quick take on this. When will you be able to use Bitcoin to deposit to terrestrial books? Like there's, you can't take Bitcoin and deposit in any of the onshore, the legal books. And what
I'm going to guess.
Why do you think offshores were so quick to adopt that? And it's beautiful. It's such an easy process. And I believe it's probably easier for them. They're saving on credit card fees. As somebody who's been on the side of like a service-based company, I know how credit card fees suck. Dealing with credit card companies sucks.
Oh, plus
I'm sure
these
people offshores love dealing with crypto.
Oh, it is a game changer for them. Beyond just the fact that they're accumulating crypto, it's going, it's blowing up in price. People will deposit on a credit card and then gamble away that $500 in one play, and then say, "Oh no, disputed charge." Like, "Oh no, I didn't. That was somebody stole my card."
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass for them.
Yeah, that is such a pain in the ass. On top of the fees, on top of the the regulatory bullshit. Bitcoin does save them all of that. And so I think we're probably a year away from it being used terrestrially to fund accounts. But
I think a year is actually aggressive. I think we're several years, but I'd love that. That'd be great.
Yeah. It's tough to say. It's growing so fast.
Mm-hmm. Well, with all the institutional adoption, maybe you're right. That'd be awesome. So, let's do another one of these. I don't know. It doesn't have to be Friday. Let's figure out these. This is just as fun as an episode, if not more fun.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because we had a question about like providing account, or what was it? Account providing. I'm trying to think of how he phrased it. When you Oh man, now I can't find it. I'm gonna feel bad.
Do you want to do this last?
Yeah, hit one
Last
more.
question.
Forgive me if this was addressed in the pod. Dan, you're forgiven. But aside from TopShot, are you all invested in any NFTs? If so, how did you decide what to invest in? What are your plans with it? I did spend like 2 hours on OpenSea one night looking. I almost bought some, but I didn't have any Ethereum.
Yep.
And I didn't feel like taking Bitcoin, exchanging it for Ethereum, moving it into this Dapper thing, and then buying this like $80 Elon with glowing eyes picture. I almost did though. So I'm gonna continue to monitor that. I've taken some screenshots of some art I thought was cool, and I'm gonna check back in like a month.
Let's see. Yeah, that's a great idea.
See is this stuff appreciating, or is it a scam? Or so I'm interested to know how some of these markets are gonna move.
I do not have any NFTs. I don't have any skin in this at all, and I don't know that I ever will. To be honest, I don't think of it as investments. To be honest, it's speculative. It's a bubble. It's bubbly. Some stuff will be awesome. Like, I don't know. You've probably never heard of everyone in the NFT space, but there's a guy Beeple who's just out of this world good digital artist. And
I mean, there's some really good digital artists.
Yeah, if you told me like, hey, you can get a fractional piece of this art, and will it be worth something someday? Yes, absolutely. That guy's a freaking genius. Like that, but most of it, the waifu stuff, the all the stuff that kind of reeks of the crypto kitties, nonsense. Yeah. I have a very tough time seeing the fractional thing.
It's like nonsense. Finally fractional makes sense, because like, let's say, go back to the Mona Lisa. Let's say 30 of us pooled our money together and we bought a really fancy piece of art. Well, we can't all display it in our house. It just doesn't work. It's like the episode where Bart Milhouse and who's the third one? 3 of them, they bought Radioactive Man #1, and then they fought over it. They tore their friendship apart. I don't know if you remember that.
That can happen.
Not Nelson. Martin, I think maybe was the third one.
No,
maybe it was just 2. But anyway, it's similar to that. Yeah.
You may be right, Loaf, here, but to me, this does not smell of potentially a dump, because anyone that has wealth in China that is trying to move, they're protecting themselves from the government seizing that wealth. That's what it is, because there's just not an attack surface. You can't necessarily be have that wealth seized if you're the Alibaba guy or whatever, and the government's coming for your ass. I would be a holder as well if I was Chinese. All right,
let's cut it loose, because I got a fish fry.
All right, man.
Drink the shit out of look at this barrel.
Ooh,
never tried this kind. It
nice.
Looks good though.
Nice. All right, we'll do another Q&A next Friday. I got time.
Yeah, this was fun. Let's do another one right around the same time. Maybe we'll shoot for like an hour on that one. I won't have a fish fry scheduled.
Dildo Gaggins chiming in. All right.
Babooey. Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to put that one on the screen. Yeah. Oh, and dude, stay diversified. Don't get too nuts. Never in crypto, in life, and anything. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yep. Thanks for the great questions.
I'm going to write down some of these questions that were non-crypto, and maybe we'll just hit them right off the bat next time.
Great call. I love that. Have a great one.
Going to a fish fry.
That was fun.
Because
I do love talking about it.
There was good questions.
Yeah.
I thought, no way.
We had a nice green candle today. Nice green candle. Nice green daily today for Bitcoin.
And this will go up as a podcast if you want to re-listen to it.